To start, you'll need some glass shades from a light fixture. You can check around at local thrift stores, or my local Habitat Restore always seems to have plenty of these. First, you want to stain or paint all the wood pieces. You need one of each type of wood piece per bell that you're creating. This is much easier to do before you start assembling things. Allow your stain to completely dry before you move on. Next, it's time to drill some holes. You'll drill all the way through the wood candlesticks and candle cups. You want the holes to be large enough to fit your ribbon through, so you can play around with the drill bit size that best works with your ribbon. Now for threading the ribbon. Create one long loop with your ribbon and thread the top of the loop through the candlestick first, followed by the candle cup. A little tip here, I found it worked really well to use a toothpick to help push the ribbon up through the holes. Adjust your loop to the desired length and then tie a knot below the candlestick to help secure everything in place. Pull your assembled pieces through the glass shade and hang it so you can determine how far you want the clapper to hang down. Now fill the hole in your ball knob with hot glue and then press the ribbon down into the glue securely to make sure that it's secured in there really well. Slide everything into place and voila, you have just made a really beautiful Christmas bell using upcycled materials and a few simple wooden pieces from Hobby Lobby. I hung my bells on my fireplace mantle and they look so stunning with my Christmas garlands. And that's it. Upcycling has never looked so festive.
I was in the dollar store the other day and I came across these waste paper baskets. They're actually meant to be basketball nets, but when I flipped them upside down, I realized they would make the perfect large Christmas bells. So I picked up 2 of those, and then I also picked up 2 of these Jingle bells, and I'm gonna head back home and we're gonna make them over into fun Christmas bells. So to begin my project, I used some gold spray paint, and I just spray painted both the baskets. I started with the baskets flipped over and did a really good generous coat on both baskets and let that fully dry. Once that was dry, I flipped the baskets back over and made sure to spray paint the inside as well, and making sure that I got the full rim of the waste paper basket so that everything was nice and gold. And then I let these fully set and dry. After I was done this, I came in with my Jingle bells, and I'm going to go ahead and I want to make these look a little more antique. So I'm going to take them off the string, and to do this they just easily pull off here. They're just hooked on by a little ring. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put all the Jingle bells into an old cardboard box. And then I'm going to take some black spray paint and I'm going to spray them, and while I'm spraying them, I'm also going to move them around. Don't worry too much about doing a perfect coat of spray paint because I want these to look vintage, so moving them around is actually attributing to the style. Once those dried, I'm going to go ahead and spray them with some white vinegar, and while the vinegar is still wet on the Jingle bells, I'm going to come in with some gold spray paint, and then I'm going to just lightly spray paint over the vinegar and the black Jingle bells. Again, moving them around in my box, beating them up in a way so that they look vintage. Next, I'm going to come in and I'm going to take a 1/2 inch spade bit and I'm going to drill down through the top of my waste paper basket just to make a hole. Then I'm going to take the ribbon and the hoop that my Jingle bells were originally attached to, and I'm going to remove this bow. I'm just cutting it off. It was glued in place and I couldn't get it off, but I don't want that. And then I'm going to take the ribbons and slide them down into the hole. So pulling them through, and then I have this nice handle here for my bell. I'm going to hot glue it in place, and then I'm going to come in with some just nice embellishment. I'm using some greenery here, so some picks, and I'm going to stick a little pine cone in here. And then I'm also going to make my own bow, a little bigger, fluffier bow, and I'm going to attach that as well, just using hot glue to hold it in place. And then just another extra pine cone on the side. Then I'm going to reattach my now vintage Jingle bells back in the original place where they were. And this is my finished Christmas bells here. So I've hung them here on the outside of my cabin. I think they're so cute, and I love that these were so easy to do, just with a few dollar store items. I hope this inspires you to get creative this Christmas season with things you find in the dollar store.
Grab these 2 things from a thrift store to make the most beautiful Christmas decor. Grab some glass light shades and scrub them clean. Once clean, I pulled cotton rope through the shade and tied it in a double knot. I did this for the other side, leaving enough between the 2 shades to tie it together. Then I separated the strands underneath the knot and used a macrame brush to smooth it out. A dog brush works great too. I trimmed with scissors and used hot glue to attach some faux greenery and pine cones, tied the top and hung it on my front door for beautiful holiday bells. For the second project, I grabbed 3 plastic pudding containers and used a hacksaw to cut the stem off. I scuff sanded them with medium grit sandpaper and spray painted the inside and out white. Once dried, I spray painted metallic gold and let it dry. Then I scrunched up brown paper. Plastic bags also work great for this, and I dabbed it in black spray paint and then onto the pudding cups. While that was drying, I stained a junior tongue depressor and wooden curtain rod dark brown and wiped the extra off with a paper towel. When everything was dry, I drilled a hole through the top of the tongue depressor and put the jute through and then connected it with the wood ring by wrapping the jute around it. I hot glued the ring to the pudding cup, strung them through a driftwood stick, and now I have vintage-inspired bells for a fraction of the cost. I hope this inspired you to create DIY thrifted bells.
For this project, it's time to head down to your local dollar store or Dollar Tree and grab some inflatable balls. What we need to do is have a base to set our project up on. First thing we got to do is get some good primer. This is applied before the paint. Primer is excellent. What it does is it gets rid of the color and it gives something for the paint to stick to. It doesn't need to look pretty, but get just enough on, not too thick. We don't want it to run. Once we get it on, flip it over. You're gonna have to paint that little spot on the bottom that doesn't get hit, and it gives you time to go ahead and make sure it gets really nice and dry. Then grab some gold paint. The better the quality, the better it's gonna turn out. Now, when you're painting, it's better to put tiny little small coats on first instead of really thick. We don't want any runs. Let this dry for a good 24 hours and let's bring it inside. Now use that manufactured line as the straight line that you're going to use to make that first mark, right at the top of the mark. Take a measuring tape, go ahead and place it on the 6-inch because we want to go 6 inches on one side and 6 on the other. So make a mark at the 12th and make a mark on the back end at the beginning of the measuring tape. Do this 90 degrees on the other side. You're going to do this again with the 1-inch mark and the 12. Grab some acrylic black paint, lay it out, and we're going to use a foam brush. I found that this puts it on really nice. Start at the top, right down the manufactured seam right there, and take that right down to your first mark, 6 inches down. This foam brush is 1 inch wide and it's the perfect width. Take again at the top, go all the way around the back side, all the way to your other mark. So you're going to have a full 12-inch mark. Turn it around 90 degrees, make a mark there, because what we're looking for is we're going to put a big X on top of this ball right here. As you can see also, that gold paint turned out really nice. It's nice and even. Once we get that on, look at that. That's exactly what we're looking for, but we're not done. Go ahead and take your brush, put it flat with some paint on, and we're going to make a circle at the end of each of these lines. That's going to be what's going to make these jingle bells look really cool. Go ahead and do it any way you like. I like to put it down, circle it right around the center, and you want to make sure your circle at the end's a little bit thicker than your line. Now look at this. It's not perfect, but don't worry, there's no mistakes that we can't fix. Once we get this all set up, let it dry, and it's time to put it in place. I wanted to put this under the Christmas tree, so I put out some fabric right there, and then I placed our jumbo jingle bells right underneath. I made 3 of them, put them in place right there underneath the tree, and look at this. It just looks amazing. I loved how it turned out, easy to do and inexpensive. I hope this inspired you to build your own jumbo jingle bells.
Let me show you how I turned a couple glass bowls and a shower curtain ring and a ring from a baby pacifier into these Pottery Barn dupes. So you start with glass bowls. It's super easy. An optional first step I recommend is to put 1 coat of spray paint and primer on the bowls. It's just going to help whatever you put on for your final layer to adhere better, and you won't have to use as much of it. I tried acrylic paint and rub and buff, and I wanted an aged look to the bells, and the acrylic was just too smooth. The rub and buff for the win almost every time. So with the rub and buff, I was able to put on 1 layer, and achieve the aged look that I wanted. One little tip, paint the top rim of the bowl first, then use either a candlestick or I here use red Solo cups, turn it over, and then paint the bottom, the other side of your bowls. That way you won't mess up the rim and have to keep going back and touching up. Like I said, the acrylic paint wasn't my favorite. The Rub and Buff, I used gold leaf and copper, and one on each bowl, and it's beautiful. Here, I cut the ring off the pacifier and snapped a small piece of the shower curtain ring off, and then painted them and glued them after. Next, the wax. You could do this a couple different ways. Here I used wax cubes, melted them down on low to medium heat, continuously stirring so it doesn't burn, and then you pour that into the bowl that you're going to use for the bottom of your bell. For your wicks, you can get a tea light. You can get a kit off of Amazon like I did here for these wicks that come with the sticker. You put those in first and then pour your wax in, and use the popsicle sticks with the hole to help make sure that your wicks stand up straight. The other option is to melt down candles you already have, maybe half used around the house. Pull out the wick once it's melted, put that in your bowl, and then pour the wax into your new bowl. Don't worry that the wax isn't smooth on top. Once you melt it the first time, it will dry or harden smoothly. And there you have it. Light and enjoy. I hope this inspires you to try your hand at some Pottery Barn bell-shaped candle dupes.
To begin my project, I started with some mini terracotta pots. So I took 4 for this project and I began painting them with DecoArt's craft acrylic paint in the shade white. I made sure that I painted the entire surfaces of the pots. So I wanted to paint the outside as well as the inside and the bottom of the pots because all this will be seen. Next, after the paint was dry, I did 2 solid coats, and then letting them dry, I came in with some Country Sheet Paint Metallic Ink Accent Cream in the shade Pocket Watch, and I rubbed it all over the outside surfaces of the bells. So the Pocket Watch Metallic Ink Accent Cream is really easy to use. You just have to paint it on, and then you can wipe it away with just a clean piece of paper towel or a clean painting rag. And then it just leaves this metallic accent gold finish, a very light, subtle gold finish on the outside of my bells. Once that was dry, I came in with some sandpaper and I just sanded off the edges a little bit, so around the rim and the top, just to add that nice little rustic farmhouse feel to my bells. Next, I took some canvas cotton cord and I cut off 3 pieces that were about 25 inches in length. And then I took the 3 pieces and at the top, I tied them in a loop fashion. So I pulled them around in a loop and tied a knot, and this will be a hanger for my bells. Then I took about the first 9 inches of the rope and I braided it down just to add a little decorative finish. And I finished the end of the braid off with a knot. Then I took my bells and to jazz them up a little bit, I added some crochet ribbon around the bottom of the bell, just at the edge of the pot, and then I hot glued in some embellishments, so a little bit of greenery, a small pine cone, and some pearl beads just to finish off my bells. Once this was complete, I added them to my cotton string. I did 2 on one string and then the remaining 2 bells on their own string. So to do this, I just tie a knot anywhere where the bell starts, and that'll keep it from slipping down. I did as well add some jingle bells by knotting them onto the string and holding them under the bells with the knot, and this actually makes these bells make sound. When complete, I hung them here in my home in my nice Christmas display, and I love how easy these bells were to make and how they just add that rustic farmhouse Christmassy feel to my decor.
Grab some cheap Christmas bells from the Dollar Tree, then cut off all the greenery and ribbon attached, leaving just the plain bells behind. Take the bells outside and spray paint them black. Let them dry a full 24 hours or overnight. Then come back over them with a metallic gold spray paint. Don't cover the bells completely with the gold. Let some of the black shine through. This gives them more of an antique look. Then let them dry again and add some twine to the bells. I tied them on different lengths so the finished result looks like layered bells hanging down. Attach to your Christmas mantle and enjoy these easy and cheap do-it-yourself bells.